at least last week. I need to check on this week and what it's looking like, but more price decreases than new listings coming on the market. And the number of canceled listings is creeping up. It's not jumping, but it's creeping. And so those are correlated together. And then I'd be looking at days on market. We're at 35 as of July. Did everyone see the fast stats that I posted on the launch Facebook page? And can anybody tell me what the average sales price in Kansas City was in July?
$397.
Okay, all of you should. No, you should. I mean, be real. Let's be honest. You should know that. That should be something that you're devouring and remembering. It was 397, almost 398. How many days on market was the average in July? You should know that. If you want to be a housing expert, if you want to be a market expert, you have to know the numbers. I don't, and they're easy to obtain and digest. So if you would memorize those fast stats, and I posted them on our launch Facebook page, it also is showing you trends. It'll tell you if it's up year over year from last year, or if it's down in that category. So those are the things that are important for you to track. And if you don't know, since none of you knew what the July average sales price was, you all should know. No. It only went up to 401 month this year. And that's the first time it had ever gone up. 400. It's at 397, almost 398. Average days on market, 35. Again, you get that email from KCRAR. I just take the fast stats and I post them on our launch Facebook page. But you've got to be knowing that. Do you want to sound like a new agent? Or do you want to sound like an experienced agent?
I'm not set to jobs, like online.
Because
that's where I'm at. I mean, if
But
I'm a
on-
client,
But on the fast stats,
Mhm.
it'll show you, they do it monthly. They do it monthly. So yes, it's good to know specific areas if those are the areas that you have buyers or that's where you want to focus. But bare minimum, you should know what the averages are in the Kansas City metropolitan area. That's your job. That's your job. That's one of the things. Because when people ask, how's the market? If you can tell them, well, we're ticking up on inventory, which is good for buyers. We are still holding steady on price, but maybe not. I mean, that's why those numbers.
we're balanced, but we're not there yet. And it's getting to be a better situation for buyers. We're not seeing houses go on sell same day unless they're pristine.
In my growth coaching group, we do a Tuesday mastermind. And what they're saying, their listings are, it's hard because their sellers have the expectation that the house is going to go under contract in a weekend. And that is not happening. Even on good houses, it's not happening. Or if it's happening, it's not near the rate what we have experienced. So that's why it's important that you all start educating yourself and start tracking that market watch on MLS so that you can start seeing trends. If I start seeing contingent offers go up, that tells me a story. If I see more expireds, that tells me a story. Expireds really tell you a story because while I said I'm seeing canceled tick up a little, that tells me that people are giving up quicker. Sellers are giving up quicker, meaning if they don't get that immediate reaction on their house for sale, then they might pull it off the market before their listing agreement expires. So that could be maybe they're only giving it 90 days or less. So you've got to be looking at that. But if I see expireds, that even tells me it's even slower because expired, I would assume most agents take a listing for 6 months. They should. Don't take it for 3 months or less. That is not a fair opportunity for you to sell their house. I mean, it's up to you. It's a business decision for you, but I never took any. I took 2 listings for 3 months. And both of those clients, that should have been my signal when they wouldn't sign the 6 month, that they're not going to be a good partner. And I learned, if you're going to push me and expect me to do miracles, but you're not going to do your part, then, yeah, 90 days is not enough, not enough. All right. Any questions about the market watch on MLS and the fast stats that KCRAR sends out and that I post? Okay. Next month, when they come out and I ask, you guys should all know. You should, because that's your language now. In your other jobs, you were able to talk shop. So you need to be able to talk shop now. Because again, it'll keep you from looking brand new if you know these things and you can just roll them off your tongue and people are like, yeah, Jody's really serious about this real estate thing, right? So, okay, what I did is because we're in a market shift and I'm going to be honest, we're always experiencing something in the market. It's just sometimes it's incremental. And sometimes it feels bigger and sometimes it's jumps. That's why knowing what's going on is so important because our market can literally change in a week. It can drastically change even in a month. I've seen it. That doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. So you've got to be aware of that. And then you've got to know strategies. Has anybody seen the book Shift? That's Gary Keller has a book called Shift that he wrote, I think it was 2009 when the housing market and the economy tanked. I was there during that time. It was ugly. It was not fun and it was hard and it impacted a lot of people, a lot of agents, or a lot of people, homeowners. Yeah, it impacted everybody pretty significantly. And I saw and witnessed agents who just decided to keep doing what they've always done and it didn't work. I'll give you an example. When COVID hit, it's probably the most clear example of a market shifting. When they did the COVID shutdown, we here, I mean, agents across the United States didn't know what we're going to do. And a lot of agents depend on open houses to get business. It's a good source. And we couldn't do them. Couldn't do them. They weren't safe. We couldn't do them. So for those agents that was bread and butter, part of their bread and butter, if they didn't pivot and find something to replace that, then they had this gap in their business. Huge gap for some people who that was their business or a good portion of their business. So when we teach you, like when we start Lead Gen 3612-3 in September, and remember that course is all about diving deep on all the different ways to lead gen. It's not every single way, but it's the major ways. I want you to pay attention to all the different ways, even if you say to yourself, I'm never doing that. Because never say never. Don't. Because a different market might dictate that you do have to do something you're not crazy about. Like during that time in the early 2000s, when all of that was going on, the agents who wouldn't dirty their hands with foreclosures and short sales. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. seriously, that was their mindset. And some of those did not survive that time. So you have to be adaptable. Yes, we want to help you try to do Legion in the way that's most authentic and matches you the best. That's why we do the KPA and that analysis with you, so you can have a good idea, but just know there will be times that the market will dictate what you have to do Legion wise. So don't think, I've got growth clients right now. I had one of them who said to me, what am I doing wrong? This is how I've always done my business. What am I doing wrong? I said, it's not that you're wrong. It's just your market, our market has shifted. So what was working for you is not giving you the return it has before. Does that make sense? And so we're having to figure out, how does he move with the shift? And that's what you're going to have to always do. And that's why we're going to go through this today, because it's so important for all of you to understand this. And I want to tell you, some people get all wound up on the on a market shift and woe is me, or oh my God, terrible things are going to happen. And yeah, this slide that I'm sharing with you right now, you could read this a couple of ways. It says here that during the last major market shift, real estate industry experienced 30 to 35% reduction in membership in NAR. With approximately 1.5 million current NAR members, this would translate to over 450,000 agents leaving the profession. Okay. But as we know, there are a lot of agents that are barely doing real estate, meaning the ones who just maybe sell a house to a family member a year, that type of thing. So I don't share this to scare you. I share this to help you understand. A lot of people are going to give up and drop out because they're really not running a business. They're what I call hobbyists. They're just trying real estate. This is where it should be encouraging to you, because it kind of clears the lane of the hobbyist. Those people who you're talking to a potential buyer and they say, oh, well, my cousin does real estate on occasion. Well, that person most likely that person won't survive major market shifts. And so then you don't compete with them. Right? So but I always like to be realistic with you guys, that you've got to understand that there are a lot of people. Here's what you have to remember. And here's what's hard. Is that as a self-employed person, that shifts hit you harder than in a paid position. Because usually in a paid position, you're still going to get paid, unless they lay you off. But you're still going to get paid, right? So when economy or market shift, because every industry has a market and every industry has ups and downs, just like us. So don't fool yourself, because it's all probably impacted. I got hit in the corporate world. The reason I came into real estate, well, I'd already gotten my license because I was dreading my corporate job, but myself and my small little department got downsized, or they like to say right size. Yeah, right. So it can happen to all of us, and we've all been, maybe you didn't get a raise because of what was going on in the economy in one of your jobs in the past. So don't let news of people dropping out of the business, don't let that get in your head, because that's not your story. That's not your journey. That's not where you're going. Okay. But know that market shifts can have consequences if you're not prepared. So let's talk about the strategies. And this is from James Shaw. This was a one-pager that I took and turned into the content for today. But he says strategy 1 is recognize your skill gaps. Because here's what's happening, and it's been happening this year since the first of the year, that for a while, for several years, buyers really had a hard time being able to have enough negotiating power to ask for inspection repairs. They didn't have much negotiating power to ask for closing costs. And now inspection repairs are coming back, or inspection items. I don't want to say repairs because I don't like sellers to make repairs. I hate that. But a lot of agents haven't done those negotiations ever if they've only been in the business a couple of years, or they haven't done it in a long time and they're rusty. So that's where you have to say, what is my skill set and what's going to become exposed? Because in an easy market, you don't have to have much skill. When I became an agent, anybody could sell a house. Anybody, and almost anybody could get a loan. We had 100% loans. We had no doc loans, meaning you didn't even have to show them. Oh, crazy. And that's what got us, stuff like that got us in economic trouble because we did crazy stuff. And then you had mortgage fraud and appraisal fraud and it just all blew up. And then it got hard. And then the people who didn't build their skill and knowledge over the years were left. It's kind of like when the tide goes out, you'll see who has on their swimsuit and who doesn't. Right? It's actually Gary Keller's analogy. You'll see who's left naked. And that's what happens in a market shift. You're going to see the agents who don't have the skill set and don't know what to do. So it becomes clearly, and be prepared to work harder, harder and smarter. Harder and smarter. It means that, like for my growth client that I was telling you about, that he said, what do I need? I said, you've got to do more now. And he's very good about following up with his database and all of this, but now we have to grow his database. So he has to go out and find people. So we had to come up with activities that he can do to start adding people to his database. And that's because his database wasn't big enough for a market shift. And that happened over the last couple of years to experienced agents that had maybe a database about 350. And you remember, some of you have heard me talk about the turnover rate and what the average is and what it has been. So the average is of, let's say 200 people, or have 200 people in your database. What percent of those are going to buy and sell traditionally?
2 to 4%.
Traditionally.
10%.
10 to 12% traditionally. I read somebody say 8. It might be in their part of the country, but nationwide, it's about 10 to 12%. Okay, so if you average that out and figure out that's good potential business. That's not bad, right? It's not bad at all. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but that's the potential you have if you do your job.
I mean, I'm on my 4th transaction and 2 of them were from this year.
Bingo, bingo. So if you don't have that many people, and then what has it been like last year? Does anybody remember me saying what it was last year? It was more like what you were saying.
Yeah. 6, but I was thinking 2 to 4.
4. I'm giving her the sign.
4 felt right.
I don't know what it is this year. I'm going to say it's probably about the same, or it might even go down. I feel, because I know pending sales are down. I know that June was one of our lowest months. But I don't have those numbers yet. So if you drop from 10 to 12% to 4%, then whatever size your database was, you're getting different results, right? Those are different numbers, right? So that's why you have to prepare to work harder and do more but be smarter. Expect to invest more time, energy, and strategic thinking. And, and also deals are a little bit harder. We'll talk about that in a minute. Client conversations matter more. You have to set expectations. This is what I'm hearing from my growth clients, the experienced agents in growth coaching is, oh, my sellers think it's going to sell over the weekend. And I've been trying to prepare them that that might not be what we experience. We hope that's what happens, but that's not what the market we're seeing right now. And so you're having different conversations. As a matter of fact, I introduced to my growth coaching clients a form, one of my power tools that we haven't pulled out of the power tool kit in a long time. And that's the weekly update, listing update. So I would send out when houses sit on the market longer, you've got to have a conversation with your seller every week minimum. And can I tell you how hard that is when you maybe don't have any showings for a whole week? You don't want to call them. I'll be honest. So you have to discipline yourself and have a system that we're going to talk every Friday or every Monday. I think Monday would be good. Jeff's coming. I was just thinking of him today. Every Monday for us to assess where we are in the market. And so on this form, hey, Trooper. No, I can tell you're not doing, sprints right now, so I'm so glad you're here. And I was actually thinking of you this morning, you go, hey, check on him.
Yeah.
And you got this not. Yeah. To the hospital. Well.
That's way to celebrate, right there.
All the money I just had?
Celebrate the surgery. Oh, yeah, it'll be fine.
Well, we're glad to see you. That's a treat. So conversations with clients matter more because you have to have deeper conversations with them in a shifting market, because you just have to assume they have no clue what the market's like. Matter of fact, I always used to say the mind of a client, especially as a seller, is 90 days old, meaning they're still in the market a minimum of 90 days ago, or it could be last year because they saw what happened last year and their mind is stuck there. And you've got to get them to understanding what is happening right now in the market. And that's some hard conversations because they're like, yeah, but my neighbor sold for this much and they sold in a day and they had 8 offers. And you have to say, that was great, but we're in a different place right now. We're in a different market now. And you have to be able to explain that to them. That's why knowing the market stats and understanding them is so important. Because if you don't, you can't explain the market. And that's what we have to do. That's our job. That's our job. So the agents who thrive in a downturn are those who invest in their skills when others are cutting back. So your biggest asset in your business is you. And you have to invest in you. That's how you grow your skill and knowledge, and that's how you grow your business. It's not, please, don't throw money at this. If you're going to invest money in your business, be it leads or in marketing, please talk to us. It's not that that is not worthwhile, but it may not be the match for you and your business at this time. And don't think that that's the magic pill, just throwing money at something. It really is you just rolling up your sleeves and getting better at what you do and probably doing more of it. I've rarely ever seen money be the magic to growing business. If you make an investment in something in your business, then you better know how to get the most out of that. Strategy 2. You guys are already in coaching, so we'll skip this one. But it says that is, like I said, one of the things you do is invest in you throughout your career. Even when you graduate from launch, you should be investing because again, this is how you grow and your business grows is through your increased knowledge and your increased skill set. You're not investing in more equipment. You're not a retail store or you're not a restaurant. Your asset is you. Strategy number 3, implement robust systems. How many of you are on the 36 touch for the office? Okay, awesome. Yeah,
I just went through and added people on, like extra people onto it.
awesome, awesome. What about those of you online? Are you all on the 36, the office's 36 touch? Skylar is. Thais, are you?
I don't think I am.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm not sure.
Oh.
Let me just double check. It should come through the speakers, so I never know why it does sometimes and why it doesn't other times. Come on. Yeah. Thais, try again. I'm sorry.
I said I don't think I am.
Okay. You need to send an email to Rebecca, and that is mca@kwnkc.com, and say, I want to add my contacts onto the 36 touch, and they will assist you. They actually pretty much do it for you. Okay?
Okay.
All of you should be on it. So Connor, Hark, Ellie, if you're not on, Amber, Claire, Jaden, everybody. Well, Jaden's so new. I don't know if she has people in her database yet, but she will. She will. So that is a no-brainer that really you better have it. Now, I know for some of you, you may have other marketing in place that you want to use instead of that. But if you don't, then there is no reason you shouldn't be on that 36 touch. And I love seeing that some of you are then posting on your social media about the giveaway and taking advantage of that. I love that. So here are some other systems that you need to talk about. That price reduction system, like I said, I'll post my weekly listing update that I did with sellers. And my growth clients were all over it. I'm sending it to them because they want to use it with their listings that are sitting. And basically it is saying to giving a seller a report of where are we in the market? How many days on the market have we been? What's the average for that neighborhood? How many showings have we had? And did you know in Broker Bay, under reports, you can see how many showings there were in that area. So if you go, I think it's reports and then analytics on Broker Bay. One of my growth clients yesterday, she went on there because we were talking about it. She goes, I didn't know it was there. She just was geeking out. Because think about it. If you can say to your seller, you know what? We got 5 showings this week and the average is only 2. My marketing's working. We're getting more than our competition, or we only got 2 and the others are getting 5. Or we only got 1 and the others are getting 5. We have to figure out the disconnect. And that's where you engage your seller instead of, don't fall into the trap of telling them always what's wrong. Engage them to say, you know, when I see this type of trend of others are getting more showings than we are, we've got to figure it out. Because I want their input too. And then it also has on there just a summary of the feedback we've been getting from showings. What are the most common things that people love about this house? What are the distractions? I don't say what are the negatives. I say, what are the distractions? Because we're looking for themes. And that's the other thing, talking to when you have a listing, you need to talk to your seller about, well, let me ask you this, have you all even thought, are you gonna be the kind of agent that just lets your client see the feedback and just have them copied on that showing feedback every time? Or are you going to curate it and feed it to them? Well, be careful in the curating. It can bite you in the butt if you're not careful. Sometimes we don't want to tell them the bad things.
Oh, I think.
So just know, I've seen an agent do this that didn't want to hurt the seller's feelings because they were very sensitive. Didn't tell them that there were numerous complaints about how the house smelled. So she protected them. And then when it didn't sell, they say to her, why is this house not selling? What are you doing? And she said, well, it's the smell. And they go, well, we never knew anybody said anything about the smell.
That is an uncomfortable conversation, but you have to have, I had it with the one I sold.
Yeah.
I had 2 dogs and a cat. I brought in air fresheners. And they said, oh, does it smell bad? I'm like, here's the thing, it smells like animals live here. You have animals, there's nothing wrong with that, but not everyone likes that.
Yeah, not everybody likes that.
Shampoo these carpets and put in the air freshener. Mostly we did get feedback.
And that's
But I
what,
didn't have to share it because they were multiple offers, so it was fine.
But just
I would have
know-
to share it.
yeah, you have to share it. And so I tell people, I think if you filter it, you're running the risk of not being real with them. But you do have to prepare them for feedback and say,
Well, agents might not know that this is going directly, like.
oh, they
think about that.
should. Now, no, when you give feedback on a showing, you should always do that. It is common courtesy. And you're gonna want it on your showing because your sellers expect to hear back on every showing. Now, really, if an agent doesn't give you feedback, that tells you the story.
Yeah.
They're not interested.
I read.
That's not what the seller wants to hear.
ChatGPT. I want to be clear and kind, but,
Yes.
but share what I think, and then I just say what I think, like, so, like, bluntly to ChatGPT. And like, that's the prompt, like, I want to be clear
And
and
kind.
honest,
Yeah,
but professional.
I think they appreciate that when you're really honest with them up front.
Oh.
They know that you're not sugarcoating stuff.
They want to take it to
You
play.
can give them valuable feedback. I had a house that
yeah.
went on the market, and before it went on the market, they had an orange and black theme.
Oh,
bedroom, and
a little Halloween.
literally one wall.
Okay.
So before it went on the market, I had to have that conversation. The wife kind of took it personally because that was her dishonest theme,
Yeah.
but we have to talk about it.
Neutral. I just toured a house and there was a Bible open in every single room, strategically done, 2 Romans, like it was just interesting. I was surprised that their agent hadn't like chatted with them a bit on that and like guided.
And maybe they did.
Sure.
I never assumed that the agent didn't have the conversation.
Right.
I assume the seller chose not to hear it.
Person to buy this house,
Yeah.
not the taxer.
Okay.
It was such a great house otherwise. We left and then we're like, "This is a lot." I'm like, say no more.
Yeah, we're good.
No
We're
kidding.
good. We're good. But you're right that we have to be careful and we have to prepare them. And so here's the conversation I would have with sellers. I'm going to share the feedback. Actually, I'm going to put you on, so you're going to get it at the time I do. I'm not going to filter it anything. And sometimes it might hurt your feelings. But here's what we're looking for. We're looking for repetitive themes. If somebody says it doesn't smell good once, that could be a personal preference or sensitivity. But if several buyers or buyer's agents say there's a smell issue, then we need to address it. So I'm not looking for the one-offs. If somebody says, I don't like the color of that wall, and it's only one person's opinion, then we'll move on. If they say that it's on a busy street and it's on a busy street, well, we can't move it, but they could be also saying to us, it's for this price. This is, and being on a busy street, those two don't match.
Right.
Usually I tell sellers that most people are pretty nice because we're Midwestern nice. And so really what they're telling us, if they say it's too small for the price. If it's on a busy street, it's too busy for this price. Now, not all sellers want to hear that it's all tied to price, so you've got to figure out how you have those conversations. But that's where you have to, if you don't feel comfortable with price reductions, another one of my tools, my power tools that I used on every single listing was a strategic price sheet. And that meant at every listing appointment, when we were signing the listing agreement, we were also signing the strategic price adjustment sheet. And that meant we actually determined up front before we put that listing on, when would we do price adjustments? Like in a buyer's market, that might be 30, 60, 90 days. In this market, and depending on even on the neighborhood, you might have it in 10 days or in, 14 days. So, but we would determine in what time frame we were going to adjust the price and by how much. And then I had him sign that. Because can I tell you, one of the most painful conversations you will ever have in real estate is telling a seller it's time to lower their price. And so you want to preemptively, and I did that because I learned that I hated that conversation. So I decided, why don't we be proactive and have the conversation up front before emotions really start going crazy. And we've already made that decision. So it won't be a surprise to them when I call them and say, hey, we're that 14 days out and we talked about a price adjustment and then I would do my report and tell them what I'm seeing in the market. Now, that might mean I might say, yes, we're at 14 days. But can I tell you something, from me looking at the market, none of our competition is beating us right now. Nobody has an offer. Nobody's reducing their price. That means we have a very small buyer's pool. So maybe if you're okay, we hold tight because we're not losing to anyone. Does that make sense? So that's where you have to educate yourself on pricing.
I'm sorry, what's the name of that sheet? Some.
The one that I use, it's a power tool of mine. It's not a KCRER form. It's called strategic pricing.
Fine.
And I'll post it on the Facebook page, both of those, that and the weekly market update for listings.
I'm looking to see where your systems are. I'm thinking about classes, like for your powerful goal, the one that's like congratulations.
Under contract? Yeah.
I use that and I think.
I love that.
Then I just kind of add.
Yes.
But I think.
Yeah, that's a great one. Ashley is recommending that we do a class in depth on one of my power tools of when clients are under contract. The congratulations, you're under contract. I have a seller version and I have a buyer version that educates them to here are the next steps and here are our timelines. Yep. No, I appreciate that. That's great. Feedback collection systems. Again, we just talked about feedback. Buyer update. So please don't we. One, again, you have to be educating the buyer to the market, just like you have to do the seller. And do not be the agent who just puts a buyer on an MLS search and waits for them to come back to you and tell you what they want to see. That's being lazy. I'm putting it nicely. Because as a broker, you know what I'd hear from buyers? My agent didn't find the house, I found the house. They didn't do anything in helping me find the house. Because just putting them out, you should be looking at their search every day and coming up and giving them feedback on, did you see that house on Main? Jeff, I think we should go see that one. Did you see it? And what do you think? Or today, I didn't see anything that caught my eye or met any of the needs that you said what you want. We'll just keep on looking. One of my growth clients, he actually doesn't put I think this is great and it's a lot of work, but he has 5 buyers right now he's working with. He doesn't put them on a search. He does the search and curates it every day and then sends them those best houses. That's customer service. Now, if he gets busier, that may be a luxury that he can't do. And that he might have to put them on an MLS search, but I guarantee you, he will be looking at it every day to tell them, you know, what he sees as the potential there. So don't be the agent who just goes the lazy agent way. Because our job is to help them understand why a house, it might be a house that has really lousy pictures. And sometimes that's just a turnoff to a buyer. But you see that it has everything they want and it's really well maintained and it has this and it has that. Then you need to flag it for them and say, you know, I know the pictures weren't good on this, but I think this is worth us going and making an appointment and seeing that house. So it's up to you to help them pick the right houses. Because otherwise, also, the other thing is they will want to see houses that are not worthwhile to go see, and they'll waste your time. And you're not going to tell them, I don't want to waste my time. But you got to protect your time. It's very important. Any questions on strategy 3?
No, but I did want to add that that's what I do, that you mentioned that another agent um goes over the properties prior to sending them to their clients. That's what I do. I enabled concierge service for my clients, and I go through and handpick the properties for them.
Yeah. So in MLS, you can put it in a concierge service setting that you can use. Maybe if that would be something good to go over on a Wednesday Night Warriors. Show people how to do that. Thank you, Hark. Yes, so you can give them that more handcrafted search. Okay, let's focus on transactions, not volume. We can control, hold on a second, let me get, when my mouse moves, it pops some things up. So we can control units more than we can control volume. That's why most, not all, but most experienced agents set their goals in units instead of volume.
What do you mean difference? What's the difference between units and volume? Volume sounds like it would mean units.
Well, every house sells for a different price.
You're talking volume as in dollars.
Say it, sales volume. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you for asking that because I didn't give you clarity. So in a declining market, focusing solely on sales volume can be discouraging. And it also can be misleading on how much business you're doing. We found that during COVID, like 21 and 22, so many agents had the very best year of their whole career. His prices went, phew. Doesn't mean their units went. And then as things have been not, we've had the price increases, but now they're not jumping the way they were. And especially with all the decreases, that'll happen less and less. Because when you see the decrease, the such a huge amount of price decrease, it shows the seller mindset is not in the market yet. And they've got to be beat up a little bit before they start taking it seriously. It's true. And even some agents are out of touch because, can I tell you, there are a lot of agents that do not keep themselves knowledgeable because they don't do enough business. And so they don't pay attention to the market and they think they can jump in and out, and then they let a seller, they don't advise a seller well. And then sometimes we can advise a seller well and they don't pay attention to us. So set a concrete goal. Do whatever it takes to match or exceed the number of transactions you completed last year. That's actually what most coaches are telling experienced agents is Be thrilled if you sell as many houses as you did last year. Don't beat yourself up if you set a goal over that and you're not gonna meet it. Because we're finding many agents are just gonna be fortunate to match what they sold last year. Okay? This mindset shift keeps you motivated even as average transaction values, I won't even say decrease, as they're fluctuating. Because we see some increases, but then we see, again, so many decreases in price, right? So I think it's a good business. I always track sales volume. It's not like I don't pay attention to it, but the units are really what you control. You can say to yourself today, I'm gonna sell a house in the next 2 months. I'm gonna sell a house. And then you drive yourself to work as hard as possible to make that happen. Whereas you say, I'm gonna sell, 3 million in sales. I don't know if you are. Because we don't know the price point of those units. Does that make sense? How transaction focus transforms your business. So it maintains your income, consistent cash flow, skill development, network expansion, and market positioning. By maintaining your transaction count during a downturn or just a market shift, you're building a foundation for growth when the market recovers. Here's something we know factually. That when the market shifts, that the agents who don't skip a beat and keep focused and do what they need to do to thrive in that scenario take more market share. And the agents who lose market share, have a very hard time recapturing market share if they fall. So that's why you want to be okay if you did as many transactions as you did last year. Each transaction represents more than just commission. It's an opportunity to deepen your expertise and expand your influence. Hold on. There we go. Strategy number 5. Okay, nobody really likes to hear this one. Double down on lead generation. Not getting lead generation done day in and day out may suffice in a hot market. Because it feels like business is coming to you. Thank you, Mr. Chet. Appreciate it. That it's coming to you and you're not having to do much for it. So that's lovely. But if you think that's really in reality how it works day in and day out and market to market, it's not true. In a shifting market, well, and he says but it will put you out of business in a cold one. That's what Gary says. In a shifting market, conversion rates typically decline. Remember the turnover rate. And then I hear from my growth clients again, that they have buyers and their buyers are not really moving forward. They're like scared. So they're not converting them into a contract. And you can't force someone. You can just tell them the pros and cons and help them make have enough information to make good decisions for them. But that means you need to talk to more people. You need to be around more people. You need to be having more conversations to maintain the same number of transactions. And then we have a smaller turnover rate. That's 4%. I'm going to guess that this year is 4 to 5%. And then has anybody heard of the DTD2 model of contact?
In my notebook.
Okay. It is a Keller Williams system of a course called Never Ending Referrals. And it is a way of contacting your database. Every quarter, working through your whole entire database by each week calling 2 letters of the alphabet for last name. But they are like the beginning of the alphabet and the end of the alphabet. And they already have the schedule already mapped out for you. Matter of fact, I've got one of those little signs in the cubes. Back there by, right across, the cube right across from my office. There is a DT-D2 schedule there that you can take a picture of. And what it does is it makes sure that you get all the way through your database. So here's what would happen to me. I didn't know about this one as an agent. Most don't, unless they're with Keller Williams. Is I would start contacting my database. And I'd start at the A's. And then I get to like G or H, and then I get busy or something would get me off track. And I'd stop contacting them. And then I'd think about it weeks later. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'd start again at the A's. I rarely made it to the end of the alphabet. And then the other thing I found is I was cherry picking. I was deciding who I was going to call and who I wasn't going
This
to call.
one's easy, I'll call them.
Uh-huh. Now I get it. Some days you do have to skip somebody, but you really still need to contact them somehow, right?
I developed a system for this.
Ooh.
I took the alphabet combinations, there's only 13 of them, made a tag for each combination and then attached it to the people with that last name's letter. And
Beautiful.
so I have tags for all of my clients in here, so I know when to contact.
So you can sort
I
them.
group them, yeah.
That's beautiful. So,
And, it took 2 hours of my day, but now it's all done.
yeah, so she can, and depending on the size of your database, you should be able to get through, touching everybody once a quarter.
Yeah.
Once a quarter. And that's your minimum of touching, and that is beyond your email, your 36 touch and that type of thing. That means you reaching out, not in a bulk way to them. Oh, thank you. Don't know why I just dropped. Hold on a sec. Our screen dropped here, casting, got a recast. So the DTD2 is a brilliant way to make sure you're working your database efficiently and effectively. Don't be me. I just kept starting again. And the people at the end of the alphabet, and I should know better because I'm at the end of the alphabet and always in school was always at the end of the line with the last name Van Voorst, you know? I was like always third to the last. There were a couple of W's. So yeah, I knew what that was like, but I did it in my business and that wasn't good. And it means I created gaps of connections in my business. So find these systems that are going to work for you because you need to be consistent in these times. I'm going to ask a really tough question of you guys. And not that I'm looking for an out loud answer. But let's do a little reality check. And I know when somebody did this to me, it caused a little pain. But I think sometimes we have to be real with ourselves. Being self-employed is lovely and dangerous. So I'm going to ask you this question. Whatever you said your goal was to make this year, and many of you say 100,000 in the beginning before you know how hard this is. I get it because you don't know what you don't know. But let's just take that 100,000. If you said that this year you want to make 100,000, can you honestly say that if I was to replace myself, I would pay somebody 100,000 for what I've been doing? Meaning, have I been doing enough work
Earning that.
to earn that 100,000? And remember, in real estate, it's really about rolling up your sleeves. So if your work, if you're not doing 40 hours a week in real estate and you're expecting big dollars, that does not connect. It's over here, you're over here. That's why that business plan is so valuable, because it shows you how many people you need to talk to and connect with and how many appointments you need a month. And if you're not hitting those two things, then your goal's unlikely. And then just adjust your goal will help you with that, because you're just learning about this business. And part of that goal setting is out of ignorance or naiveness, and that's okay. But just know that they have to correlate. And you have to ask yourself, am I putting in the work I need to be putting in to be successful in this business? I think you all would agree. Is this an easy business? It's not. That's why most people wouldn't do what we do for a living if they knew how hard we work. However, they most likely won't have the financial opportunities we can have. We can have. I'm not guaranteeing that to you. So we talked about so I say that to you not to discourage you. And actually, I'm going to be really honest with you. You coming in this market is actually to your advantage. Because you've got to be skilled and knowledgeable from the very beginning. When I became, hey, Miss Helen. She's my fave. If you came in the market like I did that was so easy, you could get away with very little skill. Okay, and then when it got hard, that's when so many people dropped out. Because they didn't know how, they didn't have the skill set and the knowledge. So it's actually a blessing to come in where you have to know these things. You have to educate yourself. You have to build your skills to build a solid business. So let's talk about daily lead gen activities that work in a downtime. Database calls. Systematically contacting everyone in your sphere of influence with a service-oriented approach, not just asking for business, but providing genuine market insights and value. If you guys haven't started doing quarterly market updates or equity checks with your homeowners, you're missing out. You all are wealth advisors and you should be acting like a wealth advisor. And if you have anybody have a financial planner or you have investments, do you get quarterly statements on your investments? I get my paper ones from some of them quarterly. Okay. This is your quarterly update of your investments. Okay.
I check them. I've been read online. So.
Yeah. So you're in there all the time.
Literally, I'm going on today.
But most people are just seeing it quarterly. You should, you should, for some. Obviously not Ashley.
No.
That's okay. It's okay. But you should do the same for your home owning clients. And they don't even have to be your home owning friends, your home owning contacts in your database. You should be giving them just a down and dirty of what's been going on in their neighborhood in the last year or last 6 months. And then do that quarterly and say, in the last quarter, here's how values overall, you could tell them like what's been going in Kansas City for the last quarter, and then what the numbers have been in their subdivision. Do that and you bring so much value because then you are giving them something that is of interest to them. People want to know what's going on with my assets. And they can't easily, if they go on Zillow, that's fake numbers. Give them the real numbers. Give them numbers that count. So that's where you come in. FSBOs and expires, these prospects increase in shifting markets. Because if we are having a harder time getting houses sold quickly, they're even experiencing it more because they can't get the exposure that we can get for sell by owners. They're trying to do it all themselves. Expired listings or canceled listings, they tried and they gave up for some reason. And sometimes it takes another agent coming in with a different perspective, or maybe they're now ready to listen. When it's a real buyer's market, I'm going to be honest with you, it sometimes sucks to be the first listing agent because they don't want to listen to you. And then you put all that time and effort in, it doesn't sell and it expires and they say, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to go in a new direction. And then everything you advised them to do, they do with the second agent. And you're like, I
I told them that's the price. I told them they had to paint that room. And you're like mad because you're like, dang it. That's everything I told them to do.
They weren't ready to listen. Unfortunately, remember I told you their mind is in a different market and it has to catch up when there are swings. So actually, we had strategies on how to be the second agent. Yeah. Geographic farming. Intensify your presence in a specific neighborhood through direct mail, door knocking, community involvement. You need to show you're the market expert. Strategic open houses. Please start getting pickier about your open houses. I love you guys, but just picking anything that's up for grabs. And then you tell me you don't have anybody come? Have you not read my booklet? That open house booklet gives you the strategies on how to pick houses. I get it in the beginning, just pick anything and just get some experience under your belt. But then you need to get picky. Don't go to areas that things aren't selling. Go to where the most popular price points are. How do you find that information? How do you find what price points the most sales are happening? MLS has reports. If you go at the top, there's a tab that says reports.
Those are stats.
Yeah, well, you look, Megan, and then you go down and you can see every month, it's got market reports. You'll see they have a version for residential and they have a version for new construction. That new construction one can be very informative about if they're stalled or it's moving or what have you. And then you can see at what price point did the most homes sell. Well, that tells you that's your biggest buyer pool. Why would you not go where the most buyers are? Why are you gonna go fishing in a pond that has 2 fish? Why? I don't get it. So be picky. Because it's still, an open house can be great activity. But
Recommended open house in May, and then just kind of touched, probably like 10 touches, well, between May and July. And then they were ready, and then got them under buyer's agency July 28th and under contract August. But from an open house in May.
okay, and you did follow up. You didn't give up on it.
No, but like took their lead, like they were living in Florida, they had to sell their home there, so I would like shoot them a text and just say, hey, just wanted to let you know I'm thinking of you. If you have any questions, and then would leave it like low pressure. And I would put that into command under their contact, so then, and then I would literally like forget about it for a minute. But I'm in my command, and so I'd be reviewing, because I'd mark them as a lead. So I'd be reviewing my leads and say, oh, okay, good, I haven't talked to them for 2 weeks, I wanna touch back again this coming week, so then I put it on my calendar and touch back. And I would like look back at what happened last time. Okay, great. here's
That's
what
what
I wanna say.
you put notes in there? Wow, concept.
Yeah. And it was like, I
Concept.
like my work life, but also like a life. And so can't remember everything, but that remembers for me.
Well, and that's what I love. Ashley, you're using command in a high level in the way that to run a business. If we're just relying on our memory, then I don't know about you, that is not something I should do. Like if you say something to me, Kristen, will you do this? You don't see me write it down. Well, actually, I usually tell you, email me. Cause that's my workload. That's my workflow is my email. And if I will forget by the time I get to my office, I'll have the best of intentions and 2 other people will have stopped me and I don't have a clue what you said to me. Or I won't remember for 5 days and you'd be like, she never gets back to me. I'm like, oh, please, I'm giving you fair warning. Email me. And if you text me, it's okay, but remember, once a text drops down, if I can't address it right away, again, it may disappear. I've harped on this before, but become an economist of choice in your market. You've got to know, you got to talk the talk, walk the walk. And guys, you're not too new to be an economist of choice and be a market expert. You just need to take the time to educate yourself. Make sure you're going on agent tour, learning what the dollar buys in different parts of town. Educate yourself. Go preview houses. Please just preview vacant houses so you're not throwing somebody out unless you have previewing for a client. But take the time to know how to talk real estate and know your stats. Because that's how you build trust, is when you sound like you know what you're talking about. And it doesn't take, I tell people, if you think about it, being able to sound like an expert in our business is actually pretty easy. You can just describe houses that you see. I always love going into MLS, and I try to do it about once a week, go into MLS and look at new listings since I set it for a 7-day window. And I always start at the most expensive first. Because to be able to say, somebody says, Megan, what's going on in the market? Oh, Gary always says, your next response should be, why do you ask? Because, yeah. And, oh my gosh, there was a listing that came on this week that I saw that had the most outrageous outdoor kitchen I've ever seen. Just so that you have points of interest to be able to share that shows something they don't. And that's why people come to us and rely on us, because they believe we know something they don't and that we can help them. So essential market metrics to master. I'm sorry, this is so small. I didn't get it enlarged. Like I said, and we talked about this, days on market, month supply of inventory trends. How many months of, what is the months of inventory on that fast stats? 2.7. How is it that I know?
Because you memorized it.
Well, I tell myself, these are the things I need to remember, because you guys aren't gonna look at me as a market expert if I don't know this. So I gotta know it, because I gotta be able to speak like I know what I'm talking about to you guys.
I look at it in my way.
List to sales price ratios, that's in there too. Interest rates that impact buying power, local economy indicators affecting housing. Are you keeping up with what's going on in Kansas City? That's why that market stats in MLS and seeing the new construction and the rates of sales can be very informative of being able to speak. We're still down in new builds. And that affects us tremendously. Don't just know the numbers and understand what they mean. How can you use that in a conversation? Matter of fact, don't just post like those fast stats on your social media. If you do, then be able to explain it. Because consumers don't know how to translate that. It's like a foreign language to them. They might misunderstand what that means.
It's lazy.
Yeah,
Here's a graphic, it
looks pretty. Here you go. But consumers will go, well, what does that mean?
what does this mean for me?
What does that 2.7 months of inventory supply mean? Consumers have no clue. What's a balanced market? How many months? 6. It means we're in a balanced market. We never, ever stay in a balanced market for very long.
Hasn't it been like many, many years since we were actually in a balance?
Well, and it doesn't last. You'll always tilt one way or the other. It might be just a hair over. But staying in a true balanced market, I've seen it over the years, very rare that it stays there very long.
2 weeks.
It just depends. But it's not like
You're in a
6 months. It's not like a whole year we're in a balanced market. Oh, no. No, that's not how it goes. So, Strategy number 7, master pricing strategies for a declining market. Price ahead of the market. This is James Shaw, and if you listen to Pivot Shift Ahead every morning, I missed it this morning. I got busy doing something else, and he's been talking about pricing and the market a lot lately. So jump on that call at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's also recorded on the Pivot Shift Ahead Facebook page. It is one of the best ways for you to educate yourself on what is truly going on and how to prepare for it. Teach sellers to price 2 to 3% below comparable recent sales to stay ahead of declining values and attract limited buyer attention. Now, you got to make sure you understand what's been happening in their market. Don't just go in and have it your automatic default that we need to be 2 to 3% below market value, because maybe it's not a declining market in that neighborhood or that area of Kansas City. Stage reduction plans. Like I said, be proactive and have that strategy that we already know what our price reductions will be. And here's what I did with sellers. When we got to one of the dates of a price reduction, then I would do a market report to make certain that the price that we had discussed earlier still made sense, right? I wasn't going to hold them to that because maybe we need to go lower, or maybe we didn't need to go that low. But at least it got them knowing we need to drop the price, and they'd already agreed to it. Competitive analysis. Create detailed comparisons between your listing and active competition. So I call this the competition bubble. You've got to understand, when you have a listing, you need to look at your competition, and you have to look beyond the subdivision, because buyers rarely just shop in one subdivision. They'll shop in a school district or a zip code or a part of town. But I always am looking at my competition for my listing 3 to 5 miles out. And then I'm putting that on a search so I can see everything that happens with my competition, like who's coming in new that's going to compete against us. And then what are my competitors doing? Because here's what I'm looking for. In this competition bubble, if I'm priced right, in there with my competition, then I'm looking to see, are they moving away from me? Meaning, one of my competitors, are they going under contract? They've moved away from the bubble. Are they doing a price reduction? They're moving away from the bubble, the competition. They're getting ahead of us. Does that make sense? And so if I see that we're stuck here and all of our competition has moved forward in some format, either by going under contract, or they've done a price reduction, or I'm also really in a declining market. We're not there right now, but I'm going to look at expireds and canceleds too in that area. And if I see that happening, then I'm thinking, it's hard for everybody out there. And if we really have to sell, we're probably going to have to be even more aggressive. And then I tell my sellers, we can stay in the bubble, or we can actually place ourselves ahead of the bubble. Where would you like to be? Depending on how soon you need to sell. How soon do you need to move on to your next destination? Does that make sense? That competition bubbles, I find that agents will say to me, well, in the subdivision, I said, that's not big enough. You don't know your competition then. You don't. And here's how I judge it. I will look at similar properties in the same price point, and I come up in my mind that if I was going to show a buyer like 5 to 6 listings and one of them was mine, what would those others be? Right? Because you've got to know, are buyers just looking at one house usually? No. And then that's comparison shopping. When they're comparison shopping, that's where you have to figure out, am I in the bubble? If I see that all my competition is in a bubble and nobody's moved in 2 weeks, then, and we're getting close to one of those dates, I said we should do a price adjustment. My conversation might be, I don't know if we need to do that right now unless you really want to jump ahead of everybody. If you do, and we got to get things done quicker, then let's jump ahead of them. But right now, we're all in the same boat. Make sense? These are the things you need to know. This is what the average agent doesn't know, doesn't think of, doesn't do. This is what will make you different. This is what will make your business healthier in any market shift. So let's put it all together as we wrap up. I want you assessing your current skills and identify gaps. I'm going to tell you, most of you, I know a gap is contract writing. So I want you working on that. I have the expectation everybody should be submitting an offer for the contracts challenge. Unless you're currently working with clients right now and writing contracts, I want you writing, because you've got to practice, you've got to practice, you've got to practice. Find the time. It's a priority. It's not an option. Shouldn't be. Make sure you've got your lead gen, that you're doing it consistently, whatever you're focused on. And then make learning the data, the market data, and looking at it on a daily basis so you can start identifying trends and getting comfortable. Then like in that implement the basic lead generation system, I would put that DTD2 in place. I'll also load that schedule onto the Facebook page so you guys can see what that looks like. And just start wherever it is. And then 61 to 90 days, double your lead gen activities. I want you to do the DTD2 now. Create market expert presentations. So do quarterly market reviews, equity checks with your people. And then review how it's going. How do you feel about your progress? Are you growing your database through these activities? Oh, I skipped the 31 to 60, sorry. I was just going straight down. Document key conversations and work on conversations and scripts. I'll have the template for the price reductions. You can create from mine, create your own graphic. Develop feedback. Determine how you're going to handle feedback when you have listings. And build market update communication systems like we talked about. Tell me what your ahas were from this morning.
I like the specific example of the DTD2 model. I think that would be helpful. I know that I need to do better lead gen and reach out to my sphere, and so it's helpful to have like a suggested methodology.
Yeah. Otherwise, we have a tendency to be hodgepodge. So it would have saved me.
One day, oh, I have time to do it today, I'm gonna hit like exactly what Megan was our board you
Yeah.
guys was talking about.
Yeah. If you know what you're
Keep
supposed to
doing
accomplish.
ABCD and you never get to H.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that would be me. I'm guilty. Yeah. Okay, those of you online, give me some takeaways.
I thought what we just covered about how if you have a listing to research your competition heavily and keep an eye on them, like you said, if they're changing strategies, moving outside of the bubble, and just keep up with that. I thought that was interesting.
Good, good. Hark, what about you? If you're not driving.
When you mentioned looking at Broker Bay, the reports, definitely using that as a tool to understand different areas in town.
Yeah, Broker Bay allows you to see what the showing traffic is. That means it shows you what the buyer pools look like. That's important to know. Skylar? If you can talk.
Definitely Broker Bay. I didn't even know it had that capability, and I don't even use it as much as I should anyway, so.
Yeah. I appreciate you all saying that you didn't know. That's where you gotta be nosy. I self-educated myself on MLS and all those reports that I tell you about, I found as a new agent, and I found it fascinating. When I would share some of the information with experienced agents, they say, where did you get this? On MLS? Well, MLS doesn't teach us everything it has. Unless you're really purposeful. That initial training you get doesn't teach you that. You're the one who needs to be hungry for the information and dig for it. So I'm glad to share some of that with you all. Ellie, what'd you take away today?
I also agree with the Broker Bay. There was one other point I'm trying to remember. Oh yes, doing like a personalized search rather than setting them up on the MLS for homes.
Yeah, I think that's pretty brilliant. You just have to be careful that you are disciplined enough to get in there every day and do it first thing. Because houses can go so fast and you don't want your client to see a new listing that went under contract that you missed and they say, oh, I think that was my dream house. So, Jaden, what about you? Any takeaways?
I thought the DTD2 model was really interesting and something that I'm going to keep in mind.
Awesome. Good deal. Amber, what's your takeaway?
The takeaway is just start, like basically one biggest takeaway for me was, which I think I've kind of been not so good at, is don't be shy and just kind of like just be at it. Just follow-ups and having a things like maybe possibly like written down that not to drop the ball of like keep following up with the same people and give yourself like enough time in between to be able to just follow up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Follow-up is gold in our business, and it's also our Achilles heel. It is. It is where it is a true weakness and challenge for all agents, unless you're really good at using systems and being consistent. So it can be a challenge for all of us. Jody, what was your takeaway? Yeah, a good one. Mm-hmm. Good deal. Jeff, what about you?
Well, I'm definitely going to do a better job about, when I'm working with a buyer, we have a targeted property, running better reports, so I can go in and show them the data, because I haven't done that, and I feel like I wasn't doing my best without the reports. I'm definitely doing that.
Well, you guys are still on the learning curve, and it's okay. I love, you're going to layer your knowledge and experience being out there. I mean, you get better by learning and then doing. It's the two together that really help you understand. And then being open. What I appreciate about you all is that you're open to these ideas. You're open to the information, whether you apply it or not. Again, the reason I don't want you tuning out when you think, well, I wouldn't do that. Someday you might have to do that. So I just
think you're never door knocking. She might be door knocking.
My husband, the first time he did door knocking, he hated it. And he said to himself, he didn't tell me at the time, that I'm never doing that again. And then he had a situation of a buyer who wanted to live in a specific neighborhood to be close to the grandkids. And he had to knock on doors and it went well. And he was like, oh, as long as if I have a reason to knock on doors, this is really good. And it kind of became his niche of what he does, and he does well, is knocking on doors. So it's interesting that sometimes it's the strategy or the tactic is the issue. It's not the actual thing. And then just layering that learning and building your skills. You guys will get better and better all the time. We don't start out of the gate perfect or knowledgeable. We all come into real estate with a learning curve. I don't care who you are. Even former loan officers, who have, you know, some base knowledge of a portion of our transaction, they still have a learning curve. They just don't have a learning curve in that one area, right? Okay, well, I appreciate everybody's time. Hope this was of value. And again, it's about you. By becoming a market expert, then you're going to know when markets are shifting, and then you can do that self-analysis on your business of what I need to tweak, what do I need to change, what do I need to do more of, what do I need to do less of. And here's the other thing it didn't address on here, just one last thought for you guys is, do I need to look at my budget and do less of things in a declining market? Meaning spend less money. That doesn't mean less effort. Because again, the beauty, we're talking, was it last night about, oh yeah, it was last night, Wednesday Night Warriors, talking to the new agents here, and then we had people online. I said, you know, you guys are so fortunate being in the business right now that you have social media and your marketing can cost little to no money. You truly can. And you can have impact and be effective. That hasn't always been the case historically in real estate. We had to spend money on marketing, and significant money. And now you don't have to. Take advantage of that. So, okay. Well, thanks. Thanks everybody online. And we will see you on Tuesday next week. And I will post those forms I talked about for you all. Okay. All right. Thanks everybody on Zoom.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.